On July 19th, 2023, I uploaded my first ever YouTube video to this channel, Yasmin Collects. The title was The Perils of the Nokia 2780, where I talked about some of the features of a dumb phone I had recently purchased and also went over my journey, basically trying to distance myself from my iPhone. Since then, my channel has grown quite a bit and I have established a really exciting community that I very much enjoy engaging with. Although my first video on Yasmin Collects was not even 6 months ago, I have been creating content and on YouTube for several years. My original and I guess now technically side channel, Yasmin Alexandra, was created in 2011 and I began consistently posting videos in 2020, although many to most of those are no longer public on the platform. I started in the beauty community. I have been working in beauty counters and in beauty for as long as I remember, and I wanted to create this channel because I was just starting to feel really fed up and empty with the content that I was creating. Although I had fixed up a nice situation for myself where I was promoting products in exchange for payment and sometimes promoting products for no payment whatsoever, but gaining access to free skincare and makeup, which can be quite expensive, I ultimately decided that inherently it's a rather deceptive job and a deceptive side hustle, and I eventually just realized I got nothing out of it. The reason why I'm telling you guys this is because this video is actually very hard for me to do, but it's something I really want to do and want to talk about because I think I have relevant experiences to bring to the table. It's just rather difficult for me to articulate my feelings, even like privately within myself, let alone on a platform. But at the same time, I want to talk about it and it is relevant to Yasmin Collects. So I'm gonna try my best to do it. It's not clickbait, the title of this video though. I am in a few short days selling my iPhone 12. I'm going to take it to the Apple store and send it off into refurbished land, hopefully. I don't know what they do with sold off iPhones. I hope it doesn't become e-waste, but regardless, this little black box of doom, it needs to exit my life. When I talked about the Nokia 2780 in that first video, it was definitely very frightening for me because tech is a completely different sphere than beauty, and I definitely have some unique insights I think I'm going to be able to bring to the table because I am a feminine person, feminine presenting person, and I think because of that my experience with media is a little bit different. In that video I focus mainly on basic features, kind of like an actual tech review to help a viewer determine if they would like to purchase the phone. I very briefly touched on my intentions and why I got this in the first place, but now I'm going to dive into it a little bit more in depth. I bought this flip phone because I was suffering immensely mentally from the toll of essentially being addicted to technology for as long as I can remember. I was born in 1998 and I think my particular generation has a unique experience with technology. We are not born into the iPad generation, which I feel like, I don't know if you guys are even going to know about this because I feel like it's a different side of the internet, but there's like a trend where people are making fun of iPad kids and kids that are growing up addicted to technology and kind of like belittling and clowning on them when really what we should be doing is having empathy and also concern for the industry that is quickly dominating our entire society, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I do struggle with my mental health. I am autistic and I also have a mental illness that I do not feel like disclosing on the internet. It's not really important to the story, but for my own thought continuation, it is something that impacts me greatly, especially my self-perception and my ability to be present in real life. And I have gone through these phases and cycles where I'm just so overwhelmed with my phone that, you know, I have to delete Instagram or I have to hide my phone and put it somewhere else. And I actually completely got off social media 3 years ago. And then I started back up again because I got a contract position for a company doing makeup videos, and then I got back on the horse. And then again, I burnt out and was like, all right, let me buy a flip phone and see if it could help me. But I wasn't really able to fully commit to getting rid of my iPhone, and also I think I was kind of relying on this change to do way more than it should have, because there's obviously other ways to handle mental health crises. There were other things I needed to do, which I have done. I'm in a much better place. I'm not always 100, but I'm good enough to make videos like this and share my experiences. In that video, I was pretty optimistic. I'd had the phone for I think a month or two, maybe even less, my concept of time, and generally my timelines are really, really terrible. But I shared that I'm still using my phone for music, I'm using it for GPS purposes, but this is like the main squeeze when I go out. And when I made that video, that was the truth. I was not lying, but as time went on, and as I figured out ways to reintegrate my iPhone without having a cell phone plan attached to it, I learned how to strategically use my hotspot when out in public. I started grabbing for this phone in the same way that I had been before I went to the flip phone, to the point where like I would forget to charge this phone, my phone would die, I would miss important phone calls or texts from people that I'm not interacting with on social media. And it has literally turned into, not only do I now have to manage my addiction to the iPhone all over again, which is just spiraled out of control once again, where, you know, my screen time, and you know what, to make this a true, honest discussion, I'm gonna show you guys my screen time. I might not be able to actually, because my, well, actually I logged out of my iCloud, so never mind, because I'm planning on getting rid of the phone. But I'm telling you, I wish I could show you. My screen time was sometimes 10 hours a day. 8-10 hours a day, spending several hours on Instagram. Instagram has been the worst platform for me ever. Definitely I'm addicted to it, and addicted to this idea of chasing beauty and chasing perfection, because that is the only thing that I've ever been taught, not only through society, but also through my upbringing, yada, yada, yada. My screen time has just gotten out of control again, and I have found myself once again hitting a wall. The breaking point for me, because I think that this time around I was still in denial that I was addicted to my phone. My partner was kind of pointing it out and being like, you know, hey, you're on Instagram a lot more than usual. And I found myself like unable to walk around the house without grabbing the phone, keeping it with me. You know, I'm neglecting all of my surroundings because I'm addicted to the world inside this little black box, but I was still completely in denial. The straw that broke the camel's back. A little bit ago, I went out clubbing with some of my friends, and towards the end of the evening, I got a notification that an unrecognized device was tracking my location on my iPhone. And without getting too specific, because I still don't really know how serious this was or if it was just a technical error, but I really basically had a scare that someone had either grabbed my phone while I wasn't looking, or did Lord only knows what, and attached some sort of tracking device, because the Google Maps that I looked at, or the Apple Maps that I looked at, it literally was tracking me from one club to the next, and that was incredibly scary. And it's sad that it had to get to that point for all of the pieces to kind of click in my head, but that was when I realized, okay, you know what, I need to sell my iPhone, I need to commit to this, I need to talk about it and make a video, because I do find this interesting. I also am a little bit frustrated with myself though, because I did study media in college. I majored in telecommunications and media industries, and I minored in English. The English isn't so relevant to this video, but I essentially studied the history of the internet. You can kind of do a lot of different things with telecommunications, but I eventually fell into that category of studying the internet. I kind of like flip-flop between sustainability and e-waste and all of that impact, but I think the classes that are most memorable to me and the professors that I just felt the most connected to were the ones that discussed the history of the platforms that have been created, the impact that it has on society, and what it means for all of us to live in a highly technologically advanced era. And I feel like this topic is not taken seriously, or some of the takes are a little bit reductive, or it's almost kind of like we're all afraid to admit that we're addicted to something, because like when I made my original Nokia 2780 video, I was in recognition that I was addicted to my phone then, but I didn't want to include it in the video because I was just kind of afraid and embarrassed, because I mean, it is kind of embarrassing, because on the surface it's like, oh my god, I'm addicted to Instagram, like that's so stupid, just stop. But as much as I do take personal responsibility, which is why I'm selling the iPhone, which is why I'm dumbing this down and continuing to regress in a way that's going to work better for me, like that accountability is important. But at the end of the day, and I studied this in college, and I'm still not immune to the effects of it. These organizations, these big companies, have specifically designed these apps, these devices, to be addictive. It is in their design, in their nature. That is the purpose of social media. That is why, for the most part, social media is free. That is why Apple wants you to buy the newest iPhone 15 Pro with titanium. That's why they want you to trade in your device and continue purchasing new things, is because they are designed to be addictive, because that's just how it works. And none of us are immune to that. It does not matter if you get a bachelor's of arts in telecommunications, study it and understand it on many different levels, you are still not immune to your insecurities, your mental illness, or whatever it is, your boredom, being exploited by these devices. And that fascinates and absolutely scares the literal shit out of me. And with all that being said, I am totally okay with accepting at this point. I wasn't when I made my first video, but I think I am now. I am totally okay with accepting that in many ways I am hypocritical. I am a content creator online. It is not like I am this pure soul that is just completely abstained from consuming media and content. But the thing that we're talking about is goodbye iPhone, because iPhone is too small, it's too accessible, you can carry it everywhere, and for me, this thing is literally the crutch. It is the angel on my shoulder when I'm bored and the devil on my back when I know that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be. There are a couple of books and people I recommend that you listen to if this type of topic interests you. I did not script this video or try to make it like super structured or anything like that, because my feelings on this are all very messy and it can be hard for me to like express my feelings in the video like this, because I know I get comments and I'm honestly afraid of the reaction sometimes. But I do recommend that you listen to Jared Lanier. He's my favorite. Jared Lanier has done several lectures. He actually goes to universities and talks about the dangers of social media specifically, and not in a like hyper politicized boogeyman type of thing, but from a scientific and design perspective, and with the knowledge of behind the scenes, knowing how these apps are curated and how it works. I do also recommend reading Uncanny Valley by Anna Wiener. It is a memoir and also a detailed book outlining her experience working for Twitter and other tech startups. It is a really fascinating read, and I think it's very eye-opening in terms of like understanding the back end of all of these things. So those are two people and creators that I recommend reading or looking into. I did an entire essay project thing on Uncanny Valley when I was in university, and it was really eye-opening, also scary, but I am glad that I have the knowledge, and I hope that by passing on some of this information, maybe if you are interested in this topic, you can read up on it. My audience is not always in the like younger millennial type of demographic, because I tend to talk about older things, but I think that anyone, any age range or generation, which I don't even know if I am a millennial, I don't care. Any age range can benefit from this type of content, so I highly recommend that. Now, I do need to have a plan in order to trade in this phone, because immediately, now, okay, another thing, like when I got my Nokia, I was very much kind of, I want to say that I was like not fully committed to this concept, but at the same time, I kind of equate this with like transitioning from this from this to this fully is kind of similar to going from eating meat to being completely vegan. I am vegan, and I did it in a similar way where I stopped eating like chicken and red meat, and then I started only eating fish, and then I stopped eating fish, and then I was vegetarian for a couple weeks, and then, you know, I've been vegan now for 2 years, and it's been much more sustainable. So I'm not a fan of doing things cold turkey, and this isn't one of those experiment videos where someone's like, I used a flip phone for 3 weeks and it made my life so much better, and then I gave up and I never did it again. And you know what? I've seen some comments on that first video where people have been like, oh my gosh, we've lived with iPhones back in the day. It's not a big deal. And you know what? This is the exact thing I wrote in capital letters. I'll put the screenshot up here because I feel like it's going to be more powerful. But I said, oh really? What are you typing that comment on? How often do you use your iPhone? This is moderately to incredibly inconvenient. And I still stand by that statement. I do not think this journey is for everyone, but for me, who is kind of on the more extreme, the level of overstimulation and overwhelm that my iPhone brings me has gotten to a point where it negatively impacts my relationships. I feel like I'm just not listening to people as well as I should be. I don't feel like I'm enjoying my pets or really paying attention to all of the things that are happening around me because I'm so consumed on, I mean, even to the point where like, I would rather be on Instagram doing whatever, trying to get the perfect angle or look beautiful or be perceived in a positive way. I'd rather do that than even sit down and put effort into videos that I actually enjoy and share my thoughts, which is cathartic and I think helpful and relevant. And also, like, I don't make a lot of money off YouTube, but I'm monetized. So I also, I guess, technically have a financial incentive to make these videos. And I'd still rather be on Instagram, like what? I wrote down a plan because immediately, once I really, going back to my original point, once I really I turned this thing off because I was afraid about the potential air tagging or some sort of tracking thing that happened on this phone. I turned everything off, okay? And the first thing that happened was I completely slept in because I tried to set an alarm on this thing and my brain didn't take it seriously and I snoozed it. So first thing on my list, which I haven't done yet, is I need to get an old school alarm clock or even just like a regular digital alarm system. I remember when I was in middle school, I used to have a Sony alarm clock that had a white noise machine that I love so much. So I'm gonna be going thrifting and looking for that, which I think will be fun. I also wrote down I'm an iPad kid now because yes, I do have an iPad and I certainly have a much different association from the iPad than I do the iPhone. I've also purposefully not downloaded a lot of apps onto this thing and it's not built out. Like I don't even have like a normal customized wallpaper on it. It's just kind of like there. I'm hoping, and I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen, I'm hoping that I don't find a workaround and end up getting addicted to the iPad, which is why I wrote I'm an iPad kid now, because this thing is freaking heavy, and if you think it's damaging walking around with this, it's even worse walking around with this. But this is kind of like my substitute, so I'm able to reply to comments on YouTube and do all of that stuff. I also noticed my credit card bills, checking emails, and all of that stuff, it needs to be reintegrated as a routine again, because what happens is and I guess I'm saying we as if everyone has my experience, but I have gotten so used to notifications telling me what to do. I think that convenience is good, but for me, it's overwhelming. I need to feel, you know, a little bit of pathological demand avoidance kind of coming into play as well. Like I need to know that I am the one in control of that. So I do need to get back into a routine though of actually like writing down when my bills are due, because hello. And also I wrote down not disappearing from my adult responsibilities. Hello, because the first 2 days that I shut this thing off, I was like, oh my God, like silence. No one's here. No one is here to tell me what to do. And that's not exactly how it works. I still have to keep up with things, but it's going to be different without an iPhone. I'm also planning on buying a legitimate GPS. My partner's father still uses a GPS, and I got to see him using it when we went on a little road trip, and it was so cool to see that because I remember my parents purchasing a GPS. So they exist. They're not that expensive, so I will need to purchase a GPS. Also, like I mentioned earlier, an alarm clock clock. I'm also going to need to fix my car CD player. I have had a broken CD player ever since I got this car. I was very angry about that because I love my CDs, and I didn't think I had the chops to fix it previously, but I think I can do it now. The laser probably needs cleaned, or maybe there's just some sort of like component that's jammed or needs lubrication. 12-volt videos exist, so I'm going to happily search for one of his videos, and so I will be fixing my car CD player. And I get to do things with my hands and actually fix something, which feels good and is enjoyable. I also need to make sure I update all my contacts, transfer my photos and videos, which I hate iCloud, and I have 27,000 pictures and videos on my iPhone. Most of them, honestly, are pictures of myself, my rabbits, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I already have pictures. If I want more pictures, I can print them out. Like, I could also just look at my pets and remember them that way. And that's all the things I wrote down. Since I have an iPhone 12 that's in really good condition, I put outer boxes on all of mine and also screen protectors on everything. I am going to be able to trade this in. I can't remember what the trade-in value is, but it's definitely a couple $100s. And my plan is to trade this phone in for another pair of Beats. I made a video, I don't know, a little while ago talking about these 10-year-old Beats that I inherited from my partner. I use them every day. I repaired them, and I love these, but I do sweat in them quite a lot when I'm running on the treadmill and stuff. And I'd rather keep these as like my inside Beats so they don't get beaten up. No pun intended, beaten up. But I want to make sure that I can continue their longevity for as long as possible. And also, I'm not going to have enough credit to get like a new iMac, which I kind of desperately need because I do all my video editing on a MacBook Air. And it takes forever, and I have to like delete all of the footage from previous videos and like not keep anything because it just slows, you know, the RAM is just not ramming. That doesn't matter. The point is that I'm hopefully going to get something good from this phone, something that I'll actually use because I love listening to music, and noise cancellation is really, really helpful for me from a sensory perspective, especially when I'm out in public and in the world. I also acknowledged this in my Nokia 2780 video, but I have to say it again. I am in a very privileged position to be able to make this kind of decision for myself. I have a partner that mostly is the one that drives. I don't drive that much, and when I do, it's not very far. I live in a semi-walkable area, and I have people on my side or on standby that I could call or ask for help if I needed one. And I also have the iPad, so it's not like I'm completely disconnected. I have something in case there were to be an emergency. I may outgrow this phone. I may need to get something that's a little bit, but I see, I don't want to fall into that kind of trap. Like, it calls, it kind of texts, and that's perfectly fine. It's really hard for me to carry on long text conversations, and usually, you know, I'm used to texting these robustly long paragraphs, kind of just like chit-chatting about whatever, and I don't miss that. I find texting to actually be rather overwhelming, and in a way it's kind of something that I do out of obligation. So it's like, if you want to talk to me, call me on the phone. I like talking on the phone. I don't like making phone calls to strangers, don't get me wrong, but I love talking on the phone because it tells me that you actually want to interact with me and not just kind of like have these, you know, platitudes or whatever, which I think this is more relevant to my actual real life friends and not my internet friends, which are two different things, but sometimes there's crossover. I think you get what I'm saying. The other reason that I acknowledge, or why I acknowledge that I'm in a privileged position, is that this issue is not unique to me. It's not just me having this problem. And there are a lot of people in the world who are at a disadvantage for whatever reason, who are being negatively impacted by the greed and the way that technology is currently running and advancing. I do think, and I wish that I was in university when this started getting popular, when all of the apps started doing the TikTok thing, the endless scroll, short 60-second videos, so YouTube Shorts, which I do not do on this channel. I don't plan on doing it on this channel. I mean, never say never, because we already outlined that I'm a hypocrite. But I have noticed in myself and other people around me that the short form videos, the endless scroll videos, it really negatively impacts your brain and your ability to focus and have attention span, and it completely warps your view of content. And that's also why I love VHS and why I watch VHS tapes every night, because I mean, I'm addicted to media, so at least I get to have my media fix and consumption right. But at the same time, like, you have to focus on something for a good bit of time, and the pacing is so much slower. I hate captions on videos, like short form videos where you're watching this thing that's basically like brain garbage filled into your brain of like all these different like floating captions, and it's so overstimulating, and it's just too damn much. I think at this point I'm ranting, but honestly I don't care. It needed to be said, and I needed to own up to it myself and share this with my audience, because I think you guys will at least find this entertaining, or you can relate and you understand the difficulties of navigating a world that is so soaked in technology. And I think technology is great. I'm obviously fascinated by retro tech, and but the thing that I love about retro tech is the character, the attention to detail, and the fact that like up until the mid 2000s, we were not so bombarded with it that it became a burden. There was a point when iPhones were exciting and things were fun and Instagram had nothing but pictures, but now it's kind of like another thing that we need to manage. You know, you're supposed to eat well and exercise. That's something that human beings have to manage. Like media literacy and technological literacy and understanding the implications of becoming addicted to this little box is the same thing now as making sure that you eat right and exercise. And all of that is hard. None of that is easy. I genuinely am of the opinion that none of us were educated or prepared to deal with the level of technological influences that are just being forced upon us at all times. I find it very overwhelming, and I'm trying my best to navigate it in a way that hopefully works for me and doesn't hinder me, because at this point my phone addiction is so serious that there's no way for me to work around it in terms of like screen limits. I've tried it. Hiding the phone, I've tried it. Like I've gone absolutely feral for this phone and have wasted so much time for what? For what? So be on the lookout for a review of my new Beats. If I end up getting them, I will be excited to chit chat about it. I'm hoping that I can keep myself off Instagram. We'll see. I'm not gonna make any promises. That's, you know, that's a bit of a bigger thing that I don't think a YouTube video is going to fit. I just wanted to share these thoughts with you guys. I'm trying to be as candid as possible because phone addiction is real, okay? It's real, and if you struggle with it as well, just know you're not alone. And also don't put all of the blame on yourself, because that's how it was designed. Do not be fooled. Now I just sound like a crazy ranty person, but I'm telling you, this is real. I swear to God. Okay, if you like this video, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, Yasmin Collects. We do all sorts of fun, chaotic things. I love vintage toys. I love the 80s, VCRs, tech, just, you know, this is the Yasmin Show, and I love and appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for commenting and supporting my work. It really means the world to me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Am I actually gonna upload this? Who knows? Okay, bye.